Stadia Podcast, episode number 62. You're joining myself, Chris, one of your hosts, alongside the techie teacher himself, once again, Mr. Tom. How are we doing?
I'm doing absolutely dandy, thank you, Mr. Chris. How are you today? Dandy.
Dandelion?
The week.
And Beardock.
And Baldur, yeah. For those, so for our American audience, everyone in the UK, before we even actually went there, we'll introduce Richie and then we'll go into that. Also below him, the man of many pixels, Mr. Richie, joined us once again. Thanks for starting off the show with a technical question we need to resolve there, Richie.
Well, I mean, what do you want from me?
What more do we expect? So before we get into all the Stadia news, because of course this is the Sounds of Stadia podcast, we need to address this. So Dandelion and Baldur. What is the American counterpart to that? Would it be root beer?
That's exactly where I would have gone. I would have said closest is root beer.
I think that they're different things. So it's one of them like it's one of them things. It's like Dr. Pepper. No one really knows what it is. It's just Dr. Pepper.
It's just a doctor compressed down with sugar into a can.
At least something like Dandelion and Beardock and root beer, you kind of have an idea what it is because it's kind of in the name.
Yeah.
But so it's.
Yeah, I've got a funny story from work about Dr. Pepper. Like years and years ago, there was like not a Black Friday sale, but there was a sale on over the road at the newsagents where me and a colleague used to work. And they were in a deal where it was like buy one, get one free, but then they were also, when they price them down because they're all due to go out of date, the stocks, they need to shift them. So they were like 15p and it was buy one, get one free. So we bought like a ton of supply to see us basically every lunch break for the next month. And we had that many, we just started messing around the bottle, so we created Nurse Salt, which is an alternate to Dr. Pepper, and it basically would turn the label inside out and we try to repeat the logo but invert the colours a little bit. This is what you do when you're on the clock being paid to work and not working. So, this Black Friday, why not check out the limited supply run of Nurse Salt in your local convenience store?
Chris's Nurse Salt. No, not entirely ripped off.
But still, no one knows what's inside it.
True.
Yeah.
So there we go. And all that stems from Tom, you saying the word dandy.
Dandy. I know.
Dandy.
I'm going to shut my mouth.
Dandy. No, we don't want that. We want you to talk here on what is the Sounds of Stadia podcast, your weekly podcast where we round up all the Stadia in gaming news sometimes. We've got a great show for you this week. We've got a breakdown of all your December Pro games. They've been announced. That's going to keep us busy. We've also got a curious question around, is the Power of the One Ring coming to Stadia finally? Because we've got some leaked script that was found on a certain particular website. I've got some questions for you two guys around Baldur's Gate 3 and having to restart from the very beginning. All that in and amongst a bunch of new game announcements, new game reveals, new game leaks, ESRB ratings, and all the other stuff that falls in the Stadia cloud. But before we get into all of that, everybody, for episode 62, thank you for tuning in, thank you for watching. We do appreciate your time and support, and we would massively appreciate if you would give us a lovely like down below, give us a subscribe to the channel so you are kept in the loop with all of our talk of Dandelion and Beardock drinks and all your other childhood soda pop festivities that you may have enjoyed.
Tizer.
Certainly. So keep it locked. Follow us on Twitter, all that usual rigmarole to keep in the loop with everything that we do. But for some housekeeping this week, gentlemen, we've had another busy week of news come through, but we're also busy in the back end. Myself and Richie had our second episode of Guilt Drop this past Saturday. It's getting spooky, Richie. We're on the hunt for Emily, of course. We jump a few more times, I think, in this episode, more than we did the first. It starts to ramp it up a little bit.
Yeah. Wait till you get to episode 3.
There's a tease if I've ever heard one. And, of course, if you are into all of this Stadia fun, now Let's Play action, we got loads of videos up. We also jumped in and continued a bit more of Ghost Recon Wildlands this past Thursday. We jumped back in the action. We tried to do things a little bit more...
a little less chaotic, shall we say?
Less chaotic, yeah. It's surprising, Tom, how once you weren't there, we kept things together for a few minutes longer, to say the least. Not that we're saying you're a bad influence or anything.
I think things only really descended into chaos this time when we kind of messed up rather than, okay, let's parachute into the middle of the enemy base and just see what happens.
Yeah. But I will certainly reiterate, after playing it for a bit more, it's a great game, and it's certainly one that probably more fun is extracted when you're playing it with friends, or other people, of course, because just the wacky antics that can take off. It goes from, like, how many times did we try and do a stealth mission, Richie, just because we couldn't... when all it takes is one person to screw up the whole stealth mission? that happened, and yeah.
We started forming a bit more of a team towards the end. Like, there's a couple of like things like where I was like, I remember one bit I was like leaning on cliff sniping and just like trying to tag things for you and stuff so you could sneak in a bit better.
It's a great game, and it does make me wonder what they did wrong with Breakpoint. Why Breakpoint is so like less renowned. Just I don't feel like anyone ever talks about Breakpoint outside of its launch.
Was it controversial, or was it just not as good? Because it's entirely possible for a sequel to just not kind of hit the same heights. It might just be with people preferred Wildlands.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I think Ubisoft sometimes do this to themselves because they bring so many games out that are quite similar. I think between the Division coming out as well, because obviously we got the Division 2. I don't know whether people are burnt out or they just commit to one of the select few. So they think, well, actually, I enjoy them all, but I'm more into the Division's world. Like New York and the city might be a bit more in their wheelhouse than Breakpoint was. I can't even think where Breakpoint was even set. Now I think about it.
I must admit, if I was someone who got like really into like an online game like the Division, when I would take a break from it, I'd probably go for something completely different as a bit of a palate cleanser, rather than something that is kind of walking the similar sort of path as Wildlands or Breakpoint is.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah.
But we had fun all the same. And again, if you are new to the channel, we do a live stream every Thursday with you, the amazing people of the Stadia community out there, where we basically play any games that are currently dropping out. It's sometimes a pro game, it's sometimes a community game, but we try and get ones that have a couple of slots free so we can jump in with you. So thank you and shout out to all the lovely people who stopped by and watched us and also took part as well. But before we get into all of the action and the news of the week, because it's going to be a week about games. That's what we're here for. As we dip into December, the final part of the year, that's all it pretty much becomes, right? Games and Game of the Year awards. That's how you should spend your festive period. Hopefully everyone over stateside as well had a great Thanksgiving. You enjoyed all that turkey and
gobble, gobble.
Yams. We don't really have yams in the UK, do we?
What is a yam?
Sweet potato.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Same thing. Same thing.
Why is it called yams?
Same reason they call eggplant, and we call it aubergine.
I suppose, yeah.
I'll bet there
Creative differences.
Creative differences. Well, I quit due to creative differences. That's your typical
copyright reasons.
But before we get into all of the gaming news, I think I wanted to kickstart things off this week, gentlemen, because we've had a couple of big game launches. I just wanted to start by talking about what we've been playing, and especially wanted to congratulate Tom on 100% finishing Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Woo! Some said it couldn't be done. Some didn't think he would get there. And you proved us all wrong, Tom. Do you want to just update us on how you found it? Was it as tough as I would expect it to be? Or was it piss easy?
Yeah, to be honest with you, there's two different paths that you can take. There's 4 endings in total for the game. And 3 of them have sort of like... there's a branching path within the game where you have to make a critical decision. 3 of them run towards the same sort of like end bosses, and 1 of them runs to completely different bosses altogether. I actually found, even though the one path that runs to the other bosses is a much shorter path, I actually found that way more difficult than the longer ending with the final bosses, which are supposed to be like the true endings and so on there, really. But incredible experience. A lot of people would say that when games like Sekiro and Jedi Fallen Order were announced for Stadia, there were a lot of people who jumped on the bandwagon basically saying, well, how are you meant to play a game like that with like input lag and latency issues and stuff like that? Mate, I've 100%ed it. I'm doing it on a 50 meg internet connection at the moment, and it was fine. Like, it was absolutely fine. It was actually very challenging, but I didn't have any issues in terms of input lag and so on. But it's such a sense of satisfaction to beat a game like that and actually 100% it.
I've never detected any input lag in any game I've played in Stadia. If you are a top tier like esports player, you're probably a bit more prone to do it, but most gamers aren't. Like, I think it's just it's a negative marketing point that people who don't like the platform throw out there. It's like, so if you were playing like an esports, something like an Apex or an Overwatch or something competitively, you probably wouldn't be using Stadia full stop anyway, because it's not designed for that. Yeah. But for casual players, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, I don't think input should be a comment. Like, if we look at our friend Perfect Legend, who we were on the Stadia Source Roundtable with, like, he does play competitively Mortal Kombat and all the other fighting games, and he loves Stadia, and he said it online and Twitter a good couple of times. So
I think he's also said, though, that it's not competition ready.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, it'd have to be localized.
But yeah, but that's basically my point. It's like someone who is familiar very much of how input lag can affect the game is happy to play it on it casually.
100%. So congratulations, Tom. Well done. You must be a part of a very select few people on Stadia who've 100%ed this then.
There's only 3 people who play it, so
Tom's
you're one of the only one.
So when last I checked, actually, as much as I would like to have my claim to fame, I do believe there is one other person on Stadia who has also 100%ed it before me as well. So shout out to that guy. I don't know where he sits in the community. I don't actually know his username or who that individual is, but shout out to you, whoever you are.
Shout out to you. And if you'd like to get in touch, feel free to, because I'd love to shake your hand, sir, for pipping Tom to the post.
I must be...
Damn you!
When you posted that you'd 100%, it's like, you must have absolutely binged that game.
87 hours, I think, in total is what I put into it.
What, in like 2 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, since the game came out on the 28th of October.
All right, so it's about a month then.
Thereabouts, yeah, but 87 hours and 36 minutes. It's amazing how much time you actually waste on the first playthrough, because I realized that after you beat the game the first time, when you run through the other sort of like, when you want to go and progress through it in a new game plus and so on, I was perhaps running, I think my second run through took 4 hours, my third run through took 3, and my last run through maybe only took probably an hour and a half or something like that, because you just know where to go and what to do by that point. You can skip out all the rubbish in the middle. You're
not doing that, I wonder what's around this corner, because you already know. It's like, there was nothing useful there, let's just move on.
And you know how to counter the enemies, you know exactly what their movesets are, so you've just got the strategies down and ready for it. So I know a lot of people who've reached out on Twitter since I beat it, asking for tips and stuff like that. Honestly, you've just got to persist. You've just got to, get good, basically, is the number one step. Yeah. But just watch your enemies, learn the moves, and from there, you just continue with the game. Like, learn from being defeated. That's simply it.
Brilliant.
There's no other tip I can give.
Fantastic. And from software, obviously, we're moving on to other games we're playing. So I was under the impression we were all playing Valhalla pre-show. And Tom, you've just gone straight into another game that's came out. You've done the atypical gamer example, which we're all going to suffer from. Everyone listening, everyone watching right now, this time of the year is just perilous for a gamer who has cash to burn, because left, right, and centre, I'm being tempted and teased by every game under the sun. And we'll get into it throughout the course of the news, but certainly we've got Immortals Phoenix Rising drops this week. I've got Jedi Fallen Order finishes its sale price. The 3rd of December, so that's also the day for Amenix. That's combining Immortals and Phoenix. When Amenix comes out, the Fallen Order sale ends, and I get paid on Monday, and it's Cyber Monday, and everyone else is buying everything, and it's consumerism at its worst and finest at the same time. But you've just jumped straight into Jedi Fallen Order, right, Tom?
I have, yeah. I'm 10 hours in so far on that as well, so racking up the hours again already. I've just got to the pivotal point where, no spoilers for anyone who's currently playing it for the first time, but when you get a reveal of a certain character within the game, that's all I need to say. That's the point that I'm currently at. But again, it's great to play through, and it performs so much more incredibly than it did on last-gen platforms as well. A crisp 60 frames per second, doesn't quite hit 4K. I originally thought it did, but it is 1080p 60 frames per second. It's the 60 frames that I think is the real sweet spot for a game like that. It just looks and plays so much better than it did on PS4 and Xbox One.
That's a game where definitely you'd need that 60 frames, because I remember at times I was getting frustrated because of just the game when I was playing just wasn't quite as smooth as I would have liked in places on PS4.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, it still has a lot of the original bugs that you would have seen, you know, things like the bodies tripping out when you actually kill them, things like glitching off into the distance, clipping through, you know, the edges of platforms and stuff like that, but it's still so much damn fun to play. And it's really nice to sort of get back into the story, because I feel like even though I remember the general gist of it, it's one of those that once you play it again, you sort of really take it in. Especially considering watching things like The Mandalorian at the moment, it's just sort of like rekindling that sort of like that burning, like just that passion for Star Wars. It's just so nice.
I think we're also conditioned to put Star Wars in the Christmas period almost, because we've had a movie for the last several years, I think, in and around this. I think Solo and Rogue One maybe came out in the summertime, but we definitely had the sequel titles every Christmas for 3 years in a row. 3 years in a row, every other year. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah,
now.
no, I think they were pretty
I think
much
it's every other year.
Every other year. But then, yeah, with The Mandalorian, and I played, obviously, Squadrons a few months back now, but just the Jedi Fallen Order coming at this perfect time when The Mandalorian is arguably hitting its absolute peak finest TV at this moment in time, and then the price being that's such a good thing, knowing we're going into the holiday season when I'm going to have a bit of time off as well. But then on the flip side, I'm 20 hours into Valhalla, and that's still got another 100 games, and I'm enjoying it as well. Which is the biggest thing. So you're playing Valhalla, right, Richie?
Yes, I am. I'm a bit ahead of you. I'm about 35 to 40 hours in. It's the problem I'm having with that game. I'm going to actually change my approach to it a little bit, because I think you can get bogged down trying to get every single collectible. But I'm looking at the date, and I'm looking at the date of Cyberpunk's release and going, I need to get through the story on this at least. So I'm going to stop collecting as much as I was.
Yeah, you can definitely get distracted by just hunting for wealth and killing random people. And it's
I'm still going to do some of it, but it's like, you might have realised it in the map, Chris. If you zoom right the way in, you get to see some more like less shiny gold spots where you just get little chests.
Is that what it is?
But
that
if you
might
zoom
be
one,
why...
if you do one, they're the ones that don't contribute towards like your wealth.
Right.
So they're the ones that are going to start skipping and focus on only the big stuff.
Right, that makes sense why sometimes I go back to the map and there's area I'm 100% sure I've cleared and there's more little dots and I'm thinking, I went through the whole town.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, it's got my hooks in it. I'm back into that Assassin's Creed vibe. I still don't think I'm enjoying it as much as Odyssey. I think there is something about...
I prefer it.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
I'm much preferring it. I felt... Odyssey I found quite disjointed in terms of the story, where it just seemed to scatter all over the map, and there's big sections of the map that you didn't even go to for the main story.
True.
And it was bogged down with loads of pointless side quests that didn't add anything to the world. Well, I don't think Valhalla suffers from that. I actually prefer... I think the combat, for me, it's not that much different, but I think it does feel a bit better.
Interesting. I see the combat I found frustrating at the beginning, but again, as I'm like warming up to it, because again, jumping between different games, we've all had like almost like controller confusion where you jump between games and rolls the wrong button. And again, Tom going from Sekiro to Jedi Fallen Order, there must be 1 or 2 buttons for jump or roll or something that's changed.
Oh yeah, I very quickly remapped that.
One advice I'd give people with Valhalla is don't use the auto target. It's crap. Because sometimes you're killing an enemy and it'll suddenly flip to right behind you, and it's quite disorientating.
It is, I've had that a few times.
When we were playing Sekiro, I got used to not having it, so actually controlling the camera, and I just recommend just doing that. Get used to just controlling the camera and positioning it well yourself.
You meant to say Ghost of Tsushima then, didn't you?
He did.
I did. I realised as soon as I said it.
I was thinking Richie's never mentioned playing Sekiro once before.
I'm the first guy who platinumed it, mate.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. But speaking of getting bogged down in things, Richie, let's move on to the main part of the show, which is going to be, Mr. Tom,
the super sexy special Stadia Story segment, aka the news.
I did it again with the animation this week. The news. I
forget
forget and I panic. And as soon as you start reading, I have to look at OBS. You'll see it if you rewind 10 seconds. There's a moment I throw it over to you, and then go to my screen and go, right, where is that animation? And I can't see it in the list of things I've got there. And I click up and down, and then again, similar to last week, I forget that the little eye's not marked out, so then it comes in later. So yes, the
62
news.
episodes in and we still haven't nailed it.
The news, everybody. The news. It's a busy week, and as we said, thankfully, it's a great week for games. There's literally all the news is just compiled of game talk, which is great for you, the listener, and it's great for us, the hosts, because that's what we love to talk about. That's what we're all about here. I mean, we've just spent 20 minutes just gushing about the amazing titles we're already playing. Who'd have thought, gentlemen, over a year ago, Stadia would have all of the latest games we want to play? There's literally nothing out right now that I don't think I can get on Stadia.
True.
And I'm sure a lot of people are listening.
Miles Morales, but you've already completed that, so it doesn't
I got the platinum on that one.
Yeah.
Finished. And
so that counts for me.
And Astros.
Very exclusive.
And actually cheated the Spider-Man remaster and got that within like 5 seconds as well. If you upload your save file, it just pops everything. So
nice.
1, 2, 3, just like that. So I'm now up to 102. Not that it matters here, because we're talking about Stadia and all the news that comes with it. And speaking of things coming to Stadia, we have your December Pro Games, ladies and gentlemen. It's that exciting time of the year when we get our new titles, and once again, the powers that be over at Google are treating us to 6 titles. Some new, some already existing. Let's give them a rundown, gentlemen. Let's break down what the lovely people get. Let's start, I think, with the biggest title coming to the Pro lineup. We have Hitman 2. We knew it was coming. I think it was announced a while back within... Was it the Good Stuff or one of the Connects where they announced 1 and 2 would be coming as Pro? Have we not known this, or is that just me making it up? I feel like we always knew it was coming. Or was that just Hitman 1?
I don't think we did. I definitely remember they announced Hitman 1 and 2 together, but Hitman 2 came... Hitman 1 was definitely confirmed for Pro, but I don't think Hitman 2 until now was ever actually confirmed.
I might get my wires crossed with the fact that Hitman 2 runs on the same opening scene. The opening...
I mean, it's an easy mistake to make.
Hitman 2 is already on the platform, isn't it? So it's...
Yeah.
Yes.
But I don't think it was ever confirmed to be a Pro game.
But again, another big title. I personally think this is probably my favourite of the two, just because it's got the infamously killable Sean Bean as the antagonist within this campaign. So basically, all the missions centre around Sean Bean's character, and he's called the Undying. And basically, you've got to kill him, and they very much lean into the joke that Sean Bean gets killed in every movie he's ever in, from Sharp to Lord of the Rings to Goldeneye, absolutely everything. And they kind of lean into that, where every mission, I think you think you've killed him, and then it turns out he's not dead, and he comes back in another guise. So more Hitman. Obviously, we know it runs on the same engine. That kind of, with the issues we had with Hitman 1 launching from the launcher, with that spoiler trailer that dropped, we had a big bit of only on Stadia a few months back. We had to laugh about that one.
That's what actually started the segment, wasn't it?
Probably, yeah. It probably was, one of those daft, quirky things that only happened. Obviously, more from the world of Assassination, gentlemen. Personally, this is the one of the 6 games that has my most interest. It's the one I'm familiar with. It's the one I've heard of, and it's definitely up there in the AAA quadrant of titles. Will either of you two be jumping into this game?
Absolutely. Hitman 2. Like, again, I had so much fun playing the first Hitman that I can't wait for it. And with Hitman 3 on the horizon for January as well, or early next year. Yeah, definitely. I feel like you've got to play it, haven't you, before the third one comes out too? So brilliant.
With State Chair, of course.
I've played quite a bit of Hitman 1 now, and I really enjoy it, but it's just a time commitment at the moment where there's too many other games I'd rather be playing. So I'm probably not. I don't know when I will jump into it, or even if I will. But it's one I'm kind of happy to have in my library, just in case I ever get one evening where that evening where you just I don't know what I want to play, and and then you see something and go, I'll give that a go.
I fancy playing a bit of Hitman tonight.
With all the pro games that we are getting now, because again, half of the Stadia library is now in our libraries as well. I'm hoping we get some kind of update that really does refresh the layout especially on the Chromecast Ultra screen, because I do feel like a lot of these pro titles, because we get 6 every month, and like you said, Richie, time constraints. There's so many that I forget I even have. And they're just they're probably 40 games down the list at this point, and they're never going to resurface to the top unless there's some kind of restructure of the layout.
Yeah, it definitely isn't a UI overhaul. I'd like to be able to have a folder structure so I can go have folders for things like he's multiplayer games, he's my single player games, stuff like that.
Yeah, keep it nice in order.
Yeah.
Jedi Order.
Fallen
Order.
Or some sort of easy filter thing that I can just filter by tag.
Yeah, it would be nice. Give us that search bar. But then second up, off the back of Hitman 2, we've got Into the Breach coming out, of course, which is there's a really good game developers conference video of how they made Into the Breach. You should go watch that over on YouTube, and they discuss basically how they come up with the designs for the maps and the style. But this particular game is it's a very, very tactical, kind of asymmetric, isometric, in fact, not even asymmetric, it's isometric, kind of turn-based attack alien planet world. I was trying to think how to describe this one. Either of these two in your wheelhouse?
I don't know if it is, but I'm definitely going to give it a go just by how well received it was. This was up for Game of the Year, and it actually won the best strategy game for 2018 at the Game Awards. And And it was nominated for a whole plethora of other awards across like the 2018, 2019 award season. So it's definitely a very well respected game. But I don't think it was in the Game of the Year category, but like winning best strategy game, being nominated for best indie game.
I was going to say it would be in the best indie category for sure.
Yeah, and with 2018 being a very strong year in games, it just goes to show you the quality of this game.
Yeah.
Tom, you're nodding along there.
Absolutely. I mean, it's by Subset Games, who were very well renowned for FTL. And I used to play the shit out of FTL. Played it on iPad, I played it on PC. I just used to love playing that game. So as somebody who not only really enjoyed like their previous game, which sort of really set them up for this, I used to love playing Final Fantasy Tactics back on the PlayStation 1, and this is very reminiscent of that. It's a turn-based strategy, but it combines that sort of like pixel art element that they had in FTL. It's sort of like I'm not 100% sure whether it's existing in the same universe, if it's the same kind of races and so on. I'll have to look into that. But yeah, I'll definitely give this a go because I love me some turn-based strategy. Absolutely.
And for those who don't know, what is FTL?
So FTL is it was like a spaceship management simulator where you would you'd have a spaceship. You were part of like a rebellion fleet, and you had to try to get to the end goal. Moving through different sectors of a galaxy, different sectors you'd have to navigate and use your FTL drive, so your faster than light drive, to move between planets, where you would have sort of like randomized events, and it could be things like fighting another ship, or you could have options of rescuing a passenger. You had to build up your crew, but at the same time you also had to manage. The gameplay was essentially you had the top-down view of your ship. You had to move your crew around within the ship to manage things like the weapons, the shields, and so on, while the enemy is also doing the same thing and attacking you. So essentially, like, managing energy to the shields, managing energy to the weapons, and moving that sort of thing around.
So this is
great stuff for a sci-fi nerd.
So this is probably just more of the same, but in a new iteration, it would seem. They took what they learned. I know in the GDC conference video they were saying there's a lot they learned from the success of that game, which they then transferred over to making this one.
Yeah. I think it's in my Steam library. I think I got it as part of a Humble Bundle in the past.
Quite possibly.
And I just never give it a go.
One of those. It's on the pile. It's on the pile.
Yeah.
Speaking of games on the pile, no disrespect, but we finally got the it launched with Stadia, this game. Kine is finally a pro game. For those who've been clinging on to that £7 price tag or something it's had for nigh on a year now, you don't have to wait, everyone. It's free. It's finally a pro game. Obviously, little puzzle game, quirky, with a bunch of musical instruments, and you've got to navigate your way via like rotating these cuboid characters, I suppose, across amongst a storage kind of planet that looks like it's straight from like WALL-E or something. Again, it doesn't really interest me. It's something that I'd probably try out, enjoy for a little bit, and go, I get the premise, but probably never see it through to the end.
I feel a bit sorry for this game because it's a small indie game that I would have definitely give a go if it was a pro game a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but now we're in the busiest part of the year for the games. It almost feels like the game's being put out to die.
It's funny because we have been saying since the very beginning when we started getting pro titles that, we're getting indies. We've always said at some point this game will drop. But nobody ever expected 13 months down the line or so December the following year after. It's been so long.
It just I feel sorry for the developers because it just feels this game's now destined to just sit in my library and never get touched.
Oh, poor Kine. Oh. It is Kine, isn't it? We settled on that.
I was literally just about to say this is the first time that you've said Kine and not then gone, or is it Keen? It's Kine. It's Kine.
But anyway, being keen, let's get on to the...
Maybe I'll give it a go.
Maybe we'll do a stream one day. Next up, we've got Monster Jam Steel Titans.
Baby!
Scared Richie there in the earphones. Again, another game that it's something that I'd probably play to just dick around for an hour or so, but I'd never really commit much to playing it. We've said on previous episodes, racing games, the kind of now I can drive in real life, albeit not a monster truck, so this might add a new dynamic to it. It looks fun. It looks like you'd have a great time, but it's not something like I see myself sticking loads of hours into.
Yeah. I think there's a Thursday night stream in this.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going with it. That is absolutely a Thursday night streaming game, that one.
Yeah. I can see
there's going to be some chaos there. There's going to be some chaos.
I can see lots of chaos, and I can see Tom spending all his money on like every pack and skin that there possibly is for like kitting out his monster car with like bobbleheads and everything on the side and neon lights and everything like that.
Do you remember when you designed Sounds of Stadia hoodie for Trials?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, you should. If you're playing Trials, you should look for that.
You should. It's still out there.
It is still there. It is still there.
Yeah, still there in the wild. He does love a bit of customization. Does our Tom? Next up on the list, we venture into space, Everspace, in fact, with what Richie, you said this seemed like a Star Fox style on the rail shooter, and then it turns out it's a bit of a roguelike game. So between the two of you, do you want to explain what a roguelike is, Tom?
Oh, here we go.
What this means, compare it. Again, it's because every time someone explains it to me, I genuinely just forget. My brain goes, oh yeah, okay, I get it now, and then I forget. So what the best probably thing is to give me a game that's similar to this, so I can just go, oh, I get it. That makes sense.
Rogue.
I mean,
because it does from the trailer. It genuinely, like Richie alluded to, it does look just like Star Fox, like on the rails. Like you're in space, you're shooting stuff down. I'm guessing the roguelike element comes from if you die, you lose everything.
Yeah, essentially. Again, the simplest thing I'd point it to is Risk of Rain. You go back to the very beginning. So everything that you collected during your run, things like weapons, power-ups, and stuff like that, you will lose all of that, and you'll go back to the beginning, back to level 1, continue through the game as as it's all randomized along the way. So imagine it's going to be sort of like, I imagine each sort of arena, if we want to call it that, every sort of area, will be randomized every time you play it. There'll be like one of a set number of bosses you have to defeat by the end of it, and you'll get power-ups, I imagine, different things like different weapons or speed boosts and stuff like that for your ship along the way, shield upgrades, etc. But if you die, you lose all of that. Back to the beginning, back to basic bitch ship.
Basic
simple as that.
I will say though, this is probably the one aside from Hitman that has got my interest. It looks gorgeous from the trailer. The environments, like all the different planets with the asteroid fields and all the chaos going on, the lighting and such seems beautiful.
It's one of my favorite things about space games, particularly space flight sims, is that because they don't have to render the ground and environments and stuff like that, it's so much less demanding from a CPU perspective and a graphics perspective that they can focus all of that into, the ships looking good, the lighting looking good, the asteroid fields looking good, and just like in general, they can focus it all down a particular path rather than trees.
There's something as well about when you having a space battle, flying your ship, dogfighting with another ship, and there's just like an alien-looking planet in the backdrop. Like, it just gets the sci-fi nerd going.
Yeah. Like a binary star or something like that.
Yeah, and you don't also have to worry about crashing into things because for the most part, every direction is safe, which is usually quite good. But yeah, I think definitely I'll be looking into Everspace just to see what it really is about. And I think what you said, Tom, it probably is just going to be a couple of different like world locations where you have to just take everything down in and around the gravity field probably to do with that, and then progress through a portal or something, or hyperspace out of there to another location. But yeah, it definitely has my interest. Another one, which is probably the final game, the sixth game in your list, that is probably going to be another ideal one for our Thursday night streams, is part of the Neighbor connected universe. We've got Secret Neighbor. We're coming steady, which along with everything else, I think we've got. Did we get Hide and Seek last month?
We did.
And then we've got Hello Neighbor 1 for free so far, right?
Yep.
So and then 2 we think comes out next year to Stadia, and then we've also got Secret Engineer.
Yeah.
And now we've got Secret Neighbor. This is the one which we got confused with. This is the Dead by Daylight one, right?
Yeah, this is the asymmetric multiplayer. Yes. Hello Engineer is the spin-off, obviously, and Hello Neighbor is the original, and Hello Neighbor 2 I don't think it's announced for Stadia yet, but it's announced for other platforms.
Yeah, it was at the Xbox showcase, but again, if it doesn't come yet, we're getting everything else in the cinematic universe. This is like Sony trying to take Spider-Man away from the MCU. You just can't do it. It needs to stay here on Stadia. But this is the one of the Hello Neighbor games. This is the particular spin-off that actually does have my attention, because we had loads of fun playing Dead by Daylight, and essentially it just seems like a more, I want to say, a friendly level of that. There doesn't seem to be as much blood and guts. It's more like genuine hide and seek, which is why I think we thought hide and seek was that type of game. 6 friends, one of them is a fraud, so you've got to like kind of a bit like Among Us. You've got to kind of scout out who's betraying your group, and obviously the neighbour finally does catch you, but there's one shifty bastard amongst them. And we will root him out, gentlemen, probably on a Thursday night stream.
Cheers, thanks.
I played Dead by Daylight with you. It's terrifying.
It's going to be me.
I
know it is.
But that is your 6 pro games. And speaking of Tom being tricksy and false, we move on to our next star of the week, which is according to not a leak necessarily, but a terms of service update. On
September 2019.
Yeah, dated incorrectly because again,
is it dated?
Dated
incorrectly?
I mean, it's been and gone.
No one noticed this.
I mean, yeah, that could happen as well. But on a Warner Brothers terms of service page for one Middle Earth Shadow of War, the sequel to Shadow of Mordor, the amazing retelling of some of the tales from Middle Earth, there's several mentions of Stadia, gentlemen. So we've got in the legal contract terms and conditions, we've got in the game server, we've got linking Stadia accounts to a Warner Brothers Games third-party account, we've got ownership rights mentioned in Stadia, and we've got financial transactions because we know Shadow of War had loot boxes. Does this safely mean that we're going to see the world of Middle-earth coming to Stadia, gentlemen?
I mean, surely you should be excited by this.
I am super excited by this.
I haven't played Shadow of War, and it's been on my list of games I want to play for ages. I don't want to say this is a guarantee. It's not necessarily safe. It's entirely possible that they were looking at the platform, and since we're looking at the platform, let's knock up the terms of service real quick. If it's almost like a copy and paste, delete the word Sony, put the word Stadia in there.
I hope not.
I think it's a very strong suggestion that...
Yeah.
But it's
Warner Brothers Games, isn't it? Isn't it WB Games?
It is, yeah. It's WB now. Yeah, and we know the developers.
But we know WB are already in with Stadia anyway, so they already have the connection there through
Mortal Kombat, isn't it?
Yes, Mortal Kombat.
But if we assume the date on this September 2019 is correct, there's a lot that's happened with WB in that time where actually WB games were put up for sale and then taken off sale between this actually being written and us talking about it.
Again,
so this is why I really, really, really hope this game is coming. But I'm not yet ready to go, it's definitely coming.
Yeah. And again, we don't know what's going on because, like you said, a lot of stuff's happened in 2019 and then into 2020, not only with Warner Brothers, but the world in general. Yeah. Hopefully it was just a placeholder. Who knows? How often do websites not really update the date at the bottom of the page as well? Like several high-profile websites you can go on and they'll still say 2019 right through to like June, July on their main homepage. It's not something that just gets updated by default. So hopefully it is an error, but I one am excited to jump in with Talion, played by the one Troy Baker, with Celebrimbor, who helped Sauron forge the ring, and all of that Middle-earth lore that they do take a few liberties with. I know the game got a bit of shun because they made Shelob, the spider, into a sexy female fatale in this game, so...
Couldn't Shelob... shapeshift anyway in Tolkien lore.
Yeah, but never as a sexy lady enticing you into missions, I don't think.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's something like, her only appearances in the narrative show her as a spider, but I'm sure it is like in the lore that she has taken over forms. Because she's one of the Maiar, isn't she?
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
So similar to like Gandalf and stuff, she's one of the kind of demigods, I guess, in Middle Earth. But personally, I thought this game was brilliant. As a big Lord of the Rings fan, the best part for me, if you've never played the game before, and I think this is how I pitched it to you, Richie, originally, why it's so good, is you learn the backstory for some of the 9 ring wraiths. So you basically find out how they were corrupted from being mortal kings of men and turned into the ring wraiths that they are now. So you see how when they were given the Ring of Power, how it in fact impacted their lives, their family, their kingdoms, and how they became corrupted and turned over to the kind of the wraith world. And it's such an enticing story to learn about certain characters. But I think Monolith do a great service to like the world, the story, and there are a few cameos naturally that pop up. But for me, it was the locations are just amazing. Yeah. The biggest one they go to, Minas Ithil, which is where you see the big green thing come out of in the movies, where the Witch King actually resides. And you see it as like an actual castle of Gondor. So it's like a big white city made of all the same stone that Minas Tirith is. And you just get to explore it as like a Gondor capital city as opposed to like a rundown, like evil home. And again, as a fan, just to see that in a different time period, amazing, lovely game.
I remember playing Shadow of Mordor, and it plays somewhere almost like a modern Assassin's Creed game set in Middle Earth, and I'm like, yep, I like that idea.
Yeah, and I would certainly be down to play this, stream this in some way, shape, or form with the big fans that we all are, because we obviously went. And I'm happy to report. I don't know if I mentioned to you guys well, but I did secure my Lord of the Rings Steelbook 4K Ultra HD collection thing for Christmas. So that should be here on Monday, and I'm so happy. I'm a happy boy right now. But if this comes to Stadia, if this comes to Stadia, I'm 100% down to play it. Fantastic. Cannot wait. And speaking of more games, as we said, this is an episode all about the games. We've got an update for the Mafia trilogy, which this kind of goes back to our when they come out and Stadia just go all hush hush on every notion of any game. So the Mafia trilogy was rated for Stadia. It was PEGI rated. So Mafia Definitive Edition, 2 Definitive Edition, and 3 Definitive Edition were all rated, which usually means an imminent release, gentlemen.
Yeah.
I think the definitive edition of number 1 was delayed from the original 2 and 3 remastered. They came out early in the year with that weird caveat that you downloaded the first title come September when it came out again, and it was very weird. Like I would be frustrated if I bought the collection and the first game didn't come with it until several months detached from launch.
Yeah, because that's the one you want to play first.
Yeah, it's so backwards and messed up, and I know 2K got a lot of shit for it, rightly so, but it looks like as far as Stadia goes, we're just going to get the whole complete bundle, which I guess is probably the best way in hindsight. I know we've bemoaned it for some time, but because everyone else is playing it ahead of time. But yeah, it looks like it's on the horizon. So how about for you two? This one it's great that we have on the platform, but I'm looking at you both now thinking this will just wait until after maybe it's the new year, depending on the price as well.
Again, it falls in the category where it's a game that I'm happy to see it coming because I know it's got a dedicated fan base. I'm not part of that fan base, and I'm probably just not going to have the time to give it its fair shot.
Yeah.
Like I don't have anything against the game, just I have other games that more pique my interest more.
It's just it's never been one that's been in my wheelhouse. I know a lot of people reached out to us the last time we spoke about this when it was first announced and said, "Oh yeah, but it's like similar to these games and so on." But again, I don't really know whether as at the current point in my life, whether I have time for all of these games. Like I want to, but I just don't think it's my sort of thing. It's just down to that.
Yeah, they I know they're all well revered in their own right. I know 3 maybe wasn't as well favoured as the first 2, but the fact I do love jumping into these things like I did with BioShock, where when it's a complete collection, I'm more willing to give it a try because I think, well, there it is, it's all done, all 3 are there, I can play them in the best finished version they possibly are, all the DLC and stuff, all the patches are all done and they are in a complete edition, which I do really like. But for me, it's going to boil down to the timing and the price. If these come out full price whack, it's like, maybe not.
It's not even the pricing for me. It's just literally just going to be the timing. I only have so much free time to spend playing games.
Yeah.
And it's just a case of what's going to capture my interest. Like Watch Dogs Legion, a game I thought looks great, but I looked at it and I was like, I'm not going to be able to have time to play that. Mm-hmm. So,
and we'll touch on it in a minute, but already on sale, it's only just come out and it's already been knocked down hefty amounts.
It happened with Watch Dogs 2. They did it with Watch Dogs 2, where it came out in such a busy period. It was a great game. It just didn't get the marketing push that it probably needed, or it came out the wrong time of year. And then fast forward a few weeks and it was heavily, heavily discounted again. And I honestly wonder what Ubisoft's plan is with this, because I think Immortals is possibly going to suffer the same thing. It comes out 1 week before Cyberpunk. It's coming out in the midst of another 2 consoles launching, which come with their own list of games like Valhalla, Call of Duty, Cold War, Assassin's Creed, everything like else and everyone still plays all these games as a service like Fortnite and stuff as well. It's the mind share, and I honestly think Immortals, for as fun as it looks, I think you said last week, Tom, you cancelled your pre-order. I don't know where I'm going to get the time to play it, And I know for a fact if I just wait, it's going to go cheaper very, very imminently.
So I would have to say it's kind of ironic that I cancelled my pre-order because people are now taking to social media and saying they've now been billed for Immortals Phoenix Rising as well. Yeah. So I wonder whether I just managed to get it in time. That being said, though, you are absolutely right. But it's also worth mentioning, as part of this Mafia Trilogy news story, that Watch Dogs and Watch Dogs 2 have also now been rated as part of PEGI for Stadia as well. And we knew they were coming as part of that whole Ubisoft sort of package, which got us Wildlands and is getting us Assassin's Creed Origins when it finally drops, as well as the Far Cry games that we've already seen.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised with Watch Dogs and Watch Dogs 2 whether they drop on Tuesday this week, because if we had that news story before, we're just waiting. We're just waiting. And at some point, we are still also waiting. It's worth mentioning that we're still waiting for Ubisoft Plus to come to Stadia, which, again, was something that was announced way back when Stadia first launched. Yet here we are. It's on Amazon Luna, which is currently in beta. But we still don't have it. So, I would expect these two games to probably be dropping on Tuesday. Ubisoft Plus is still supposed to come by the end of the year.
Running out of year.
Time's ticking.
Yeah, it's back to the jokes you said
every week
last year, wasn't it? When they promised us stuff by the end of the year, and then we start counting down. And we're thinking, hang on a minute, you've only got 30 plus days left of the year.
Yeah, I think they're just at the moment they're just probably grinding out the ports of all the older titles, get them on the platform, then they can launch Ubisoft Plus.
Yeah, because I know there are people in the community definitely hanging fire and saying, well, I'll just wait for Ubisoft Plus. Why would I drop 60 on Immortals, 60 on Valhalla, 15 on Far Cry, 15 on Watch Dogs when I can pay, what is it for? We don't even know the price yet, I suppose, do we?
Nope.
I was planning to wait to buy, instead of buying Valhalla, just playing Ubisoft Plus. One of the reasons I changed my mind is because I really wanted to play the game. And two, then I'm pushing it into the same window as Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Then I'm having nothing to play for like a month, and then too many things to play.
Oh, aren't we?
I thought I'm just going to drop the money now, play the game, try to get it done before Cyberpunk launches.
And it's not going to happen.
True.
Because Cyberpunk comes out in 11 days, and you've still got, by estimates, probably 100 hours or something.
I mean, I've already touched on this show. I'm going to change my strategy of that game and try and mainline it a bit more.
Mainline for the end. Speaking of getting to the end as well, we are currently, ladies and gentlemen, 50 days out from FIFA's launch, FIFA 21, and they have came out this week, EA Sports, because the imminent arrival on PS5 and Xbox Series X is coming on the 4th of December. They've mentioned about some new features and some new kind of next-gen tweaks that they've applied, which makes me then think, does the delay for Stadia potentially just mean that we're going to be getting the next-gen port or the PC equivalent across? Maybe we'll see one day. Again, I'm kind of like as you're probably the same, Richie. As the weeks and months tick by now, I'm just at the point like, forget it. I'll just wait for next year. I'll wait for FIFA 22 at this point.
Yeah,
because the football season's well underway now, albeit behind closed doors, and it's a bit weird all around just due to the nature of 2020. But every post I see on Facebook, every time I see match of the day come up on a weekend, and it's like, oh great, football's still cracking on, but I'm yet to be able to play it on the move, which is what I wanted. And it's even priced down on PS5 PS4 at the moment, so it's like there's a David Beckham edition out now. Not that that makes a difference, but
yeah, if the base game is sub 30 and comes out before the end of the year, I might consider it.
I don't see that happening, unfortunately.
I don't see it happening, but at this point we're already 3 months into the season. My excitement for the new season is already coming back gone. So it's like it's like I think you've missed the window, to be honest.
Missed the transfer window.
You're a loss for words, and I think that just sort of like echoes the general feeling for it. If you've got nothing to say, then there's not going to be any hype around it coming to Stadia anymore. People just don't care.
Yeah.
If it comes out and it's a bargain, then okay, I can go. Yeah. Although I did miss some of the time I could have had with the game, I got it for a good price. But if it comes out like above 50, I'm just not interested at this point.
Yeah, I'd imagine we're going to get a Jedi Fallen Order price, because we didn't touch on it, but we did get Jedi Fallen Order at like a really good price, I think. Actually,
the difference is that that's a 1-year-old game and this isn't.
It's true. It's very
true. So I'd imagine, very true. Yeah, we'll maybe see it. Probably a little bit higher. For me though, I think the only thing that would really get me into it is I've promised Chase from Stadia Talk that we'd have a match between New York City FC and Orlando. That would be the only reason, I think, at this point in time. So I can test.
Yeah, but
test
if it comes out at 60 quid for one match, that's an expensive game.
It's a $60 match. Yeah, it's all holds bad.
It's actually going to watch a Premier League game.
The winner the winner pays for the other person's copy.
I need to see that. You need to set it to a full 90-minute game as well. You need to, the lads, both of you need to stream that at the same time. God. Different perspectives. We've got to see it. It needs to happen. Chase, Tom, shout, do it.
Me and you on commentary then, Tom. Turn off the commentary in the game.
The guy's passed it to the other man. He's kicking the ball. It's going in the net. That's how football works, isn't it?
That is
would be hilarious, actually.
He scored a basket.
Dear me. Moving on from the Stadia news, the FIFA news, then we'll talk about some more games that are still coming, because as we said, this is a very game-centric episode.
More games.
And we are on the cusp, gentlemen. Finally, CD Projekt Red came out this week and doubly confirmed that it is coming on the 10th of December. We've waited what feels like an eternity now, and I know, Richie, you've alluded to it before, you're just burnt out on marketing for Cyberpunk now. You're fed up of the bright yellow. You're fed up of all the neon lights. You just want to play this damn game now, right?
I'm fed up about talking about the games coming soon.
The game's coming soon.
I just want to play the game.
You might be in the wrong job doing a podcast about stuff if that's the case.
We've been covering it for like a year.
We have. Well, over a year, because this was one of Stadia's launch announcements, wasn't it? But what we should probably mention though is they dropped it this week, a gameplay trailer, about 5 minutes. You find a little bit more about the world of Night City. You're learning more about like kind of the customizations, the dynamics. Stunning trailer put out, really, really good. Shows the kind of like the seedy underworld off, the nightclubs, the partying, and everything that's going to happen. And they came out and answered a few questions. But Tom, you mentioned Stadia was getting both praise and shit at the same time for its video. Do you want to give us a bit more of an explanation of that for the audience?
Yeah, so there's a lot of controversy around the video, as there always seems to be when we talk about Cyberpunk. Everyone's got something to say, particularly when Stadia's involved, whether that's the game delay is caused because of Stadia, or whether it's because of the fact that apparently the Stadia version doesn't perform up to scratch. So Cyberpunk, or CD Projekt Red, I should say, released a supposed gameplay trailer of Stadia playing the Stadia build of Cyberpunk at 4K, 60 frames per second, supposedly. A lot of people have sort of like broken it down. The first thing we need to sort of understand is that the video is exactly that. It's a video. It's not a first-hand experience, is it really? So it is most likely going to be a 30 frames per second video that's been uploaded online, whereas the gameplay may be rendered at 60 frames per second. A lot of people have also noticed as well that actually the video is extremely, if not identical, to the PC gameplay.
It's probably literally the same video.
I was going to say that's not too unsurprising because of the fact that we've been told that Stadia is getting the PC build, but then it's also exactly the same video as is supposedly the PS4 version of Stadia as well. A lot of people have taken online and just said, there's been some journalism articles. I won't go too much into it because there's quite a lot of controversy around it, not real journalism and so on. But basically saying, the Stadia version looks like it doesn't perform very well. It doesn't look like it's so, graphically robust compared to the PC version or console versions. And also the fact that it doesn't seem to be performing at 60 frames per second. Once again, I'm just going to point out the fact that it is the same effing video.
Yeah, what they've done is they've recorded the video, probably using the PC version, and then rendered it out multiple times for each different platforms, because they're not going to shoot the same thing multiple times for no reason.
Yeah.
And when you're comparing any console to PC version, the PC version is always going to be better. Because especially when it's a marketing thing, because guess what? CD Projekt Red are going to have probably a 3080 Ti or something that they're running the game on in their office. So you probably don't.
This is very true.
Yeah.
What I would say is we need to stop shitting on things like this because so what if it looks slightly different compared to the guy who's running a 3080 and an Intel i9 processor? Like, give it to the working man, like the guy who can't afford to drop £500 on a brand new console. Like, the fact that it could still perform at essentially 4K at 60 frames per second and may not be 100% the same as the PC build, so bloody what? Like, as long as we get it, as long as we can play it, as long as we can enjoy it, it looks like a damn good game. It looks beautiful. And supposedly we may at some point get ray tracing on Stadia, and if we do, excellent. If we don't, it's still going to be a good game.
Yeah.
We hope.
I'm at a point. I've been at a point for like probably 10 years where graphics have been such good enough that it's rare that they jump out as being bad in a AAA title.
Yeah.
So it means when you're playing the game, you forget all about it. Stuff like ray tracing, as awesome as it is, and it's like one of them. Oh my god, I didn't know I needed this moment. If you've never had it, you've never noticed you needed it. It's So I think it's one that it's almost like things like 4K and ray tracing become a bit more about marketing than the actual end user experience in some ways.
Yeah, they're just buzzwords. It's like 8K with TVs and stuff, and like how much detail can the human eye even see within like a screen? And it just gets it's just marketing buzzwords.
Right now, 8K is completely pointless because there's very, very few like media that's actually rendered out in 8K.
And again, a lot of it's down to like again when it comes to streaming like Netflix and Stadia and such, it's all down to your internet connection quality and how much you can push down the pipe to get to your screen. But all in all, if you want to play the game, just play it and enjoy it because let's face it all looks a damn sight better than that Atari ET game that came out way back when.
Or Prince of Persia.
Yeah. Although I will say, you mentioned there, Richie, about graphics and stuff. I did see a really funny article today for those who are playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Go search out an article for what the kids look like in that game. There's a lot of children scattered around England within Valhalla, and my word, they are scary as shit. Like some of their faces, like I don't know whether they've just not actually done any like scans of children or mocapped any children, so they've basically just let the artists to just come up with their own designs for what they think kids look like. Oh, it's like the stuff of horror nightmares. It's shockingly weird. Like the hair, the shape of their heads, it's stuff of nightmares. But speaking of Valhalla and gods and stuff, we got another game announcement this week because it's games, ladies and gents. Coming from Koch Media, is it Koch Media? It's another kind situation. Yeah. These are the people, obviously, part of the Embracer group, who we know if you don't keep your distance, you'll be sucked into the gravitational field and you'll become part of their establishment. They've announced that Gods Will Fall is also coming to Stadia on January 29th, 2021. A day and date with the rest of the platforms as well. And we discussed it a little bit pre-show. Tom, there was a game you said this reminded you of loads. What was it again?
We're talking excuse me, wait, sorry, I'm getting my wires crossed here. We're talking Gods Will Fall or Legend of Keepers?
Gods of Keepers. Did I say Gods Will Fall?
Yeah.
Sorry, that's me. That's our article's mixed up. So sorry. Gods Will Fall. From Koch Media. Iconic gods and realms, Celtic warrior clans, navigate a world of duality, and learn a lesson in brutality, just like I just did. So this isn't the game we were talking about ahead of time.
Nope.
But there's so many games that feature gods now. It's so hard to keep up. Gods and monsters. Yeah, this genuinely has both of them, it would appear. This one is slightly different. It looks like you take on a bunch of different characters. Fight across different warriors, different gods of different sizes in individual lairs. It reminds me of Hades a little bit, actually, from the gameplay. Okay. It's just the angle and the fact that you're fighting gods and monsters, as Richie rightly said. A little bit more of a cartoon aesthetic to it, I feel. But
it's got vibes of sort of, I want to say a mixture of... I mean, to me, when I look at the art style of it, it's almost got that, like, Little Nightmares sort of almost claymation type of vibe to the characters. But it's very much reminiscent to me of Darksiders Genesis, or also like the Diablo, sort of like that isometric again appearance of it from that like fixed camera angle. But again, it looks good, but it's a game that I don't know a lot about, so I can't particularly say whether it's one that I'll be picking up and trying out. That being said, it's one that very much fits into my wheelhouse, very much into my sort of niche of games that I do like, so perhaps I'll look at the opportunity to give it a go. Yeah,
and nice to see it marketed in line with the other platforms day and date, so Stadia Absolutely. Up there on the advertisement for it as well. This one do anything for you, Richie? I'm
similar to Tom. I've played quite things like Diablo and Torchlight and even things like Dungeon Siege back in the day, so there's part of me that is interested in this game. But one of the nice things is it's not coming till the end of January, so I might have time to actually play it.
That is that good old January window when we can take stock of the year that's passed and look ahead to quite a vacant spring and catch up on our back catalogue.
Yeah.
Until they announce 7 more things that drop and come out imminently. Other things that they may announce, Tom, might be Legend of Keepers, which is a game you mentioned. Pretty sure. That reminds you of a certain game. Would you like to elaborate now? Now I've got the correct game for you, and what this reminds you of.
Yeah, so Legend of Keepers by Goblin Studio has been rated for Stadia on the German rating boards USK. Very reminiscent to me of an old title called, actually a mix of 2 titles. It's got a lot of vibes of like Darkest Dungeon, which is a very well received game, indie title, and also mixtures of like Dungeon Keeper. For any board game enthusiasts out there or card game enthusiasts, it's very similar to me. It reminds me of a game I've got called Boss Monster, in which you sort of take the role of almost like the dungeon keeper, like the boss of a dungeon. You have to place traps, you have to place enemies using resources and so on, and the idea is to stop a group of heroes sort of advancing through your dungeon. So imagine, if you will, sort of like a 2-dimensional Orcs Must Die, only you play as the bad guys, but rather than attacking, you are protecting your treasure, you're protecting your horde from the traditional role, like RPG party, from coming in and sweeping up everything within the dungeon and looting every single nook and cranny and running off with the treasure at the end of it. So I'm quite interested in this one. This is a title that I definitely will be playing, because it's very reminiscent of a lot of things that I've played, and it will involve a lot of strategy, a lot of thinking about how you're going to deal with certain types of character. I imagine, like, if you've got a paladin or like an archer or something, you'll need different sort of traps to deal with them. But again, looks great. It's pixel art, it's 2D. I love that sort of stuff. I eat it up. It's great.
Unique games. Look up for you.
Very hungry, Richie. I'm very hungry.
I'm hungry right now as well, actually.
I'm Austria.
That's nice.
You mean you're
Let's
not
talk about those Austro-Hungary relations.
That was the worst joke I've ever said.
Well, this is the right place for them. This is certainly the right place for them.
Can you tell I'm tired?
I could have made a really salty transition after you said that, but I won't do it, because the next story up we've got Monster Energy Supercross 4, which caught me off by surprise. I totally forgot we had Monster Energy Supercross 3 on Stadia, and when it came out, I did almost do a double take, thinking, don't we already have this game on Stadia? Because again, we've said it before, we're not Monster Cross Super. I mean, we're fans of Monster. We're not fans necessarily of the Supercross.
We've drank plenty of Monster on these streams.
Oh yes, I think nearly every other episode I must have a can. I'm trying to cut back on it. I'm trying to stop getting these goddamn multi packs that it's like, oh, 4 for £4, and then that's when I think that's like just my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's almost like becoming like a breakfast. And it's not good, so I've stopped drinking it. So I've tried to stop anyway. I'll still have a cheeky one or two every now and again. But in terms of the game sponsored by Monster Energy, we've got I presume it's just a yearly iteration. So we've got number 4 coming out now, day and date to Stadia. It's nice to see that they've kind of caught up with the times, and we're getting a day and date for those Monster Super Energy Cross fans out there. I'm sure you are thrilled to bits to be getting this one, and look forward to playing it, enjoying it.
If you like dirt bikes and Monster Energy, then this is the game for you. Monster Energy Supercross 4 coming to Stadia on March the 11th, 2021.
Was it Monster Energy Supercross 3 where on like the game art, like 2 of the bikers were actually sponsored by Relentless?
Probably
Red Bull. It was Red Bull.
Yeah, there is Red Bull. Again, it's all every extreme sport is sponsored by energy drinks because it's energy.
But I just remember thinking like I think it's like 2 out of 3 of them just had like Red Bull sponsorships on the Monster Energy game.
Yeah. It's nice to see on this one on the cover art that the main focal point in the middle, the guy does have the Monster logo right in the middle of his Kawasaki jersey. Right there, so at least they're hitting the sponsor point correct this time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. If we were ever sponsored by Monster, I think that'd be detrimental to all of our healths. Health.
Well, we wouldn't have to necessarily drink it on the show because I think we've drank enough to be able to endorse it comfortably.
Well, yeah, maybe. But it is coming out March 11th, so similar to your time window of opportunity, you've got a little bit of a breathing space before you have to jump in and play the Monster Energy Cross 4. I'd love to do actual, like, proper Monster Cross. I'm calling it the sport now as Monster Cross. But I get
that's
flashbacks.
what they want to do.
That's what they want to do. That if the branding works. But I do get slight flashbacks to Monster Boy, and now I'm thinking, was Monster Boy a sponsorship all along? The game was just called Boy in the Cursed Kingdom, and now it's actually Monster Boy, and there's subliminal marketing messages for Monster all over that map.
Didn't we cover a news article relatively recently where Monster sued or asked for like a legal name change of a video game because of that, because of the use of the word monster in the title?
Oh,
it was Gods and Monsters. It was.
Yes, it was. Oh wow. Anyway.
Speaking of Gods and Monsters, which is not a game that exists anymore technically, we didn't really touch on it as well, but Watch Dogs Legion have also pushed back their online. Which I didn't really know it was ever going to get online, so it doesn't really have an impact on me. My guess it's going to be similar to Watch Dogs 2, which was you would drop into somebody else's world and essentially you would hack them and you'd have to try and track them down. They had a few different game modes. One of the fun ones was kind of like hide and seek, where Tom said I dropped into your world. I would get a beacon where I'd have to track you down within the world, and the closer I get, the more it beeps kind of setup. But when I find you, I will just look like an innocent bystander, a civilian, as long as I behave and act in the same way. So if I drive normally, I walk normally, you won't have anything to suspect me, but I have to get close enough to you to hack your mobile phone, and I have to stay within a certain radius. And as the hacking percentage goes up, you get a closer track on me. So basically you have to play a very subtle game of cat and mouse where the more I act a bit like crazy, you'll find me, but more so as the time counts down, you get a more accurate location for me. So eventually it does come to a blow where I'm like right within a 50-meter radius of you, and you can start just shooting people and finding out what's going on to track me down. At one point, if I get hit, I might have to think, right, I have to bounce, I have to run now. And you see me make a break for it, and then a car chase ensues, and it gets all crazy. But it was quite fun. I don't know what their plans are with Watch Dogs Legion, but it looks like they're going to take some time to patch the main game before focus on the multiplayer.
Very reminiscent of the Assassin's Creed Black Flag multiplayer. Do you remember that?
That was awesome. Blend in.
Yeah, blending in. Wow.
That was really good actually as well.
Yeah, bring that back.
Apparently, Watch Dogs Legion is also getting a manual save function. And I remember reading that, the first thing I thought is, it didn't already have one.
Yeah, it just straight in goes you into like the game, and because you don't play as like a character, so...
Yeah, but you still want to save your progress. Like the last thing I do before I switch off any game is save my progress. Like,
yeah, there's a few games that have been caught out with the launch of like the new consoles as well, where because there's no manual save, how you can port your file over to like the next year version and such, and it's a bit weird. Yeah, although I did get a scare point the other day, playing Valhalla. Whereas my Ubisoft Connect account just downloaded the children probably did it. It loaded the file up, and then I went to do a manual save like you do, Richie, and my original manual save wasn't there. It was just empty, and I was thinking, okay, now I'm going to make another manual save, but when you think, if I hadn't done it this time, would that 15 hours have just been lost, or is it in the Ubisoft Connect cloud now? Because there's nothing that really tells you about where Ubisoft Connect is doing anything, it just does it, which is a bit weird. We're trusting the cloud too much.
Yeah, I can get away with console games not having quick save, but manual save is an absolute must.
Yeah, and
it's just a feature that you should never remove.
It's standard practice. But final story of the week, gentlemen, we'll bring it to. Speaking of save data and save files and making manual saves, I'd really, really love to get your take on this one because Larian came out this week. Obviously, Baldur's Gate 3 available on Stadia and PC now, still in early access. They came out and said that the next big update that's coming to Baldur's Gate, unfortunately, patch 3, is going to lose your save files, and I presume that just means you have to start from the beginning again. And I wanted to throw it over to you two, who've obviously played the game. What is this? Is this bad? Does it switch you off from the game now till it's completely finished, or is this a big smack in the face? What's your take on it?
It doesn't do anything for me personally because I haven't yet started what is going to be my main playthrough. I've mainly been jumping between different characters just to try and get a grips of how the game plays and stuff. So I haven't really integrated myself fully into the story that I have like any sort of emotional attachment to any of my characters.
Okay.
However, this is unfortunately the downside of the no like patch thing for Stadia, where because of this patch and it being automatic, you don't have a choice in the matter. You will lose it. Where if you were playing the PC version, you could just choose not to auto update.
But you would do at some point. Anyway,
but
right?
Yeah,
it's still early access, so you can keep your precious save file. But then eventually, if you want to continue and play the rest of the game, you're going to have to commit at some time, right?
But that was the point I was going to make: is the fact that you make that agreement when you purchase an early access game. Like, it is early access. It is part of the disclaimer that says you will likely lose your save file or your progress because it's not a complete game. Like, when the final game comes out, I imagine that any of your save progress, it's like playing in a beta for a video game. You don't get to keep your progress when you continue further, like particularly if you're in closed beta, because there could be things like remnants of code within there. You could have items that might get removed from the game and so on. Due to causing some sort of issues. Like,
I think the problem could be with the wording of early access rather than beta. You might have bought it early access. Okay, I get the first third of the game now. Then when the next third of the game is out, then I could just continue, which is not being the case. Well, with a beta, you're testing the game rather than getting access to it before it's done.
Yeah.
So it really depends on how you've bought into it. Personally, I've always said I don't want to really play the game in chunks. I kind of want to engross myself in the story proper, which is why I never really focus too much on story. I focus more on how's the gameplay, what's the feel, what's kind of the setting, just get a general idea without going too in depth into the actual main narrative.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think
So-
there's going to
so
probably be
neither-
quite a few angry people
Yeah.
on this.
Oh
And
yeah, of course.
it's
there will be.
unfortunate. But
So yeah, that's early access for you, I guess. So neither of you were frustrated or angry, or was
don't
it
think
kind of one
either
of
of
those
us
you
have
read and went,
actually-
oh, that sucks, but it's
Yeah,
early access.
I think that's the general feeling of it. I don't think Richie or myself have actually devoted in like that much time that we would feel hard done by this, but it's one of these things that I think we've both taken the same approach where we've purchased the game in early access, A, to support Larry, and B, to try out the game, like you said, Richie, and C, so that we can literally, like, when the game finally comes out, we at least have an idea of what we're doing, and we're just going to sit on it until the game is completely released.
yeah.
I think that's probably how a lot of people are going to approach it now. now this has happened once. You would almost think it's going to happen for every sequential update that comes after this. But great to know. I do have a story about, we probably all do, and I'd love to get your take, just to wrap up the show this week by talking about the times we've lost save files, if we can recall. I remember distinctly way back in the PlayStation 1 era, or maybe even PS2. I have a younger brother and I also have a younger sister, and the sister isn't necessarily that clued into games as much as me and my brother were. And there came a time where she started playing games and not realising that removing something from a memory card is quite detrimental to a game. So when another game would pop up and recommend deleting something to make space for a save file, she just went ahead with it and just got rid of, I think it was one of my brother's entire like Dynasty Warriors playthroughs or something, where he had all like 80 characters unlocked and he'd completed the story and all that kind of stuff, and he only had a few campaigns left to run. And I remember distinctly getting home from school and just hearing hell break loose in the house and think, what's that? And obviously I didn't do it because that's just like absolute like sacrilegious to the gaming world. And obviously I could explain that. Why would I do that? It's not me. I understand the importance of save files. Pan across to my sister, probably a 4 or 5 year old, going, what? I wanted to save Barbie's Unicorn Ride or whatever game she was playing. And that is a real game. There is like a Barbie game we had on PS1. Something to do with horses and Barbie. I can't remember.
Yeah, you were massive into Barbie back in the day.
I was. I still am, Richie. There's nothing wrong with that. I still am. I've got a whole different room dedicated to collectibles for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's a different story for a different day. Have either of you two got horror stories about save files? That you can think
I wouldn't
of?
say a horror story so much. I think what I would say is that back in the early days of PlayStation, when, let's be honest, a lot of us used to get these things sort of like illegally modified so we could potentially access a lot of additional titles that we may not have had when we were hard done by in terms of financial gain and so on. We may have struggled to purchasing all the games we want. So my dad very kindly sort of managed to get my PlayStation, in a position where I could play games that you could buy off of a not so legal market. That being said, I remember playing Final Fantasy IX and getting all the way through to the start of the final disc. And as you approach the tree to enter the final area of the game, switch over to the other disc, and my save file would just not load. Because of obviously the transition between one disc to the next disc. You have to load the previous save file, and it just would not load at all. So
that's a cliffhanger for you then.
On something like a Final Fantasy game that's so long and that's so deep into it, having a save file issue, that is painful.
So what did you do, Tom? Did you read about it in PlayStation Magazine? Did you ask your friends to see if you could go around the house and watch the end, or what?
Well, being honest with you, I stopped playing Final Fantasy IX until I could download it on PlayStation 3, which is when I went back and bought it and played it. And I think I played it on my PSP and completed it then. I finally got around to doing it several years later.
And was the end as satisfying as you'd hoped for all those years later?
It was good to finally close the curtains on that and draw an end to it. Wow. It was good.
I can't think of a specific one, but I'm sure I can guarantee there's been many instances over the years where I've lost a save file and just basically rage quit an entire game and never went back to it.
Yeah.
Nope, that's it. I'm not going back.
Ooh. I've just thought of another one for me as well. Max Payne, the original Max Payne. I got it for my birthday. I played the shit out of it on my birthday for like 5 or 6 hours in a row. And then the day after my birthday, I went back to it, and there was just no save file. Oh. And I didn't touch the game again. I think I moved on to something else immediately, and then, I didn't. Again, that whole thing of just you have to go through the tutorial again, the opening missions, before the game really gets going. I think all your upgrades, your weapons, and just your bullet time, just gone. And you just think to yourself, like, oh, what a waste of my life. I suppose gaming probably is to some degree. We could all do much healthier and more vibrant things out there, but...
I've rage quit a game before. Have you ever been playing a game where you've got to a point and you're basically being, for a glitch or whatever, you're basically being locked into it, but you haven't got a save for, that is usable for the last, 3 hours?
Monster
and there's
Boy.
And at that point, I'm just like, do I continue and just go back and play for the last 3 hours, or do I just stop? And I usually just stop.
Do I just call it quits?
Yeah.
The pain is real. The pain is real. But that's wonderful. So that brings us to a wrap for episode 62 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. Thank you very much to everyone who's tuned in to listen to all of the new game stories we brought you this week. It's been a delightful week, gentlemen, full of new games. And it's great that we're at a point now with Stadia where we get all the big titles, we get all the big rumoured titles coming up. We get to talk about them in line with next gen, and everything is in the cloud. So... thank you everyone for listening and tuning in. Don't forget to like the video and give us a subscribe so you're kept in the loop with the channel, so you are reminded about our upcoming Thursday live streams, where we'll no doubt be delving into one of the free pro games that will drop this Tuesday of this episode going live. And a massive shout out once again to our lovely patrons over on patreon.com/Sounds of Stadia, where if you do want the post show slightly early, 5 days early in fact, you can head over to there, subscribe to us from as little as 99 cents, dollars, pence, something, in and around £1 or $1. Go check it out. All the tiers are over.
Why not?
We massively appreciate your support, and it does help us grow the channel as well. We do have plans of grandeur, and we may even find some more time to play more games for your enjoyment if we had the time in our adult lives. But massive thank you. Don't forget to go out and check out Guilt as well. And gentlemen, we're about to go head over to the post show this week, where we're discussing our final episode of the Games of a Generation, wrapping up 2020, the decade in a generation in PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, PC, Stadia, everything there is. And this week we're going to be talking about third-party games, so the likes of Ubisoft, EA, and all the other best-selling titles that have came out this last generation. Before we head into our Game of the Year discussions, I feel we'll get into that that time as well. But thank you for stopping by for episode 62 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. However you do enjoy it. My name's been Chris.
I've been one of the 9.
I don't know what to say now.
You can be Gollum.
I'm Gollum, apparently.
Gollum.
We've been Sounds of Stadia, everybody. Take care, have a great December, and get those decorations up. Go.
We are so glad you came. Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye now. Bye. Bye-bye. Remember, please discard all candy wrappers and popcorn containers in the nearest trash receptacle. Thank you. Okay, bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye. Okay. Are they all gone? Is everybody gone? Huh? Good. Oh my gosh, my cheeks are killing me. I can't keep smiling like this anymore. I am exhausted. I think I need a break.